Esoteric Astrology, a treatise on the 7 rays, Volume II by Alice A. Bailey. Chapter I, the Zodiac and the Rays. What I have to say first on this subject is entirely of a preliminary nature. I seek to lay the ground for a somewhat new approach, a far more esoteric approach to the science of astrology. Certain things I may say will probably be regarded by the academic and uninspired astrologer as revolutionary, or as erroneous, as improbable or unprovable. As yet, however, astrology has not really proved itself to the world of thought and science, in spite of many definitely demonstrable successes. I would ask all of you, therefore, who read and study this section of a treatise on the 7 rays to bear in mind the above comments and to preserve a willingness to consider hypotheses and to make an effort to weigh a theory or suggestion and to test out conclusions over the course of a few years. If you can do this, there may come to you an awakening of the intuition which will translate modern astrology into something of real moment and significance to the world. It is intuitional astrology which must eventually supersede what is today called astrology, thus bringing about a return to the knowledge of that ancient science which related the constellations and our solar system, drew attention to the nature of the zodiac, and informed humanity as to the basic interrelations which govern and control the phenomenal and subjective worlds. 1. 3 basic statements. The statement is frequently made that astrology is an exact science, but that is far from correct in spite of the many mathematical computations. Astrology is based, curiously enough, upon illusion, for, as well you know, the zodiac is not but the imaginary path of the sun through the heavens, and this as it appears from the standpoint of our totally insignificant planet. The sun is not, as stated, in any sign of the zodiac. It simply appears to be so as it passes between our little sphere, the Earth, and the constellations at any particular time or season. In ancient days it was believed that the Earth was the center of the solar system, and that around it revolved the sun, and all the other planets. This was the exoteric knowledge and position, though not the esoteric understanding. Later, when further discoveries brought more light to the human mind, our planet was decentralized and the truth was more clearly seen, though much remains as yet to be discovered and may even be of as revolutionary a nature. From certain astrological angles, a similar process of decentralization must take place, and the solar system must no longer be regarded as a point around which the zodiac revolves or through which the sun passes in its great cycle of approximately 25,000 years. Astrologers with insight may deny that this is the commonly accepted attitude. Yet for purposes of clarity, and in connection with the general public, the inference is permitted and accepted by the ignorant. Upon this theory and the zodiac rests very largely what we call the Great Illusion, and I would have you bear this in mind as you study with me the newer approaches of this greatest and oldest of all the sciences. Astrology is a science which must be restored to its original beauty and truth before the world can gain a truer perspective and a more just and accurate appreciation of the divine plan, as it is expressed at this time through the wisdom of the ages. The second statement which I would make is that astrology is essentially the purest presentation of occult truth in the world at this time, because it is the science which deals with those conditioning and governing energies and forces which play through and upon the whole field of space and all that is found within that field. When this fact is grasped and the sources of those energies are better comprehended and the nature of the field of space is correctly understood, we shall then see a far wider and at the same time a more closely related horizon. The relationships between individual, planetary, systemic and cosmic entities will be grasped, and we shall then begin to live scientifically. It is the scientific living, which it is the immediate purpose of astrology to bring about. At present, the position of the average believer in astrology is that he is an individual of importance, at least to himself, that he is living on that important planet, the earth, important to humanity, and that, through astrology, he can discover his destiny and know what he ought to do. In making this comment, I do not refer to those few astrologers who possess real esoteric knowledge. They are few in number indeed, and only a handful of them are to be found practicing at this time. The modern investigator likes to believe that on him impinge and through him flow all those energies which come from the sign in which the sun finds itself at the time of his birth. He regards himself also as responsive to the forces of the various planets as they govern the houses in his horoscope, and he believes that his life trends and circumstances are thus determined. This makes him feel himself to be a factor of isolated importance. Modern interpretations fail to emphasize the importance of the rising sign, the ascendant, and this has been due to the fact that few have been, as yet, ready to function as souls. Small allowance has been made for the energies which play upon our planet all the time from other constellations, or from the many, hidden, planets. Of these, the ageless wisdom claims that there are around 70 in our solar system. I desire to give you a truer, and more accurate picture. This has now become possible because group awareness, group relations and group integrity are coming to the fore in the human consciousness. As this takes place, the personality which is individual, separative and self-centered will recede increasingly into the background, and the soul, non-separative, group conscious and inclusive, will come more and more to the fore. Interest, therefore, in the individual horoscope will gradually die out, and increasingly the planetary, the systemic, and the universal picture will stand out in the awareness of the individual. He will then regard himself only as an integral part of a far more important whole, and his world group will interest him far more than himself as an individual. I shall not, therefore, deal with the subject of esoteric astrology from the standpoint of the horoscope at all. Universal relationships, the interplay of energies, the nature of what lies behind the great illusion, the deluding appearances of things as they are, and the destiny of our planet, of the kingdoms in nature and of humanity as a whole, these will constitute the major part of our theme. It is immaterial to me whether modern astrologers accept or reject these presented ideas. I will endeavor to give you certain facts as the hierarchy recognizes them. I will indicate, if I can, the subjective realities of which the outer illusion is but the phenomenal appearance, conditioned by men's thoughts throughout the ages. I will emphasize the fact of the livingness of the sources from which all the energies and forces which play upon our planet flow and emanate. I will endeavor, above all else, to demonstrate to you that all-pervading unity and that underlying synthesis which is the basis of all religions and of all the many transmitted forces. I will seek to remove you, as individuals, from out of the center of your own stage and consciousness, and without depriving you of individuality and of self-identity, yet show you how you are part of the greater whole, of which you can become consciously aware when you can function as souls, but of which you are today unconscious, or at least only registering and sensing the inner reality in which you live and move and have your being. This brings me to the third statement, which is so basic and fundamental that I would ask you to pause and contemplate it, even though you grasp not its full implications as yet. The ancient wisdom teaches that space is an entity. It is with the life of this entity and with the forces and energies, the impulses and the rhythms, the cycles and the times and seasons that esoteric astrology deals. HPB stated this in The Secret Doctrine. I would remind you that there is an astrological key to the secret doctrine which cannot yet be given in completeness. I can, however, give you some hints and suggest some lines of approach, and these, if carried in the consciousness of the illumined astrologers, may enable one of them at a later date to discover that key and then turning it on behalf of humanity reveal the fourth great fundamental of the ageless wisdom of which three are already given in the proem of the secret doctrine. Space is an entity, and the entire vault of heaven, as it has been poetically called, is the phenomenal appearance of that entity. You will note that I did not say the material appearance, but the phenomenal appearance. Speculation about the nature, the history and identity of that entity is useless and of no value. Some dim idea, providing analogy even when eluding specifications, might be gained if you will endeavor to think of the human family, the fourth kingdom in nature, as an entity, as constituting a single unit, expressing itself through the many diversified forms of man. You, as an individual, are an integral part of humanity, yet you lead your own life, you react to your own impressions, you respond to exterior influences and impacts, and in your turn you emanate influences, send forth some form of character radiation and express some quality or qualities. You thereby, and in some measure, affect your environment and those whom you contact. Yet all the while you remain part of the phenomenal entity to which we give the name of humanity. Now extend this idea to a greater phenomenal entity, the solar system. This entity is itself an integral part of a still greater life which is expressing itself through 7 solar systems, of which ours is one. If you can grasp this idea, a vague picture of the great underlying esoteric truth will emerge into your consciousness. It is the life and the influence, the radiations and emanations of this entity, and their united effect on our planetary life, the kingdoms in nature, and the unfolding human civilizations, which we shall have briefly to consider. The subject is so vast that I have been faced with the problem of the best method whereby to handle it. I decided on brevity, the concise statement of facts to those of us who are working on the inner side of life, but which must rightly be only hypotheses to you, and the avoidance of detail and of detailed discussion. We will endeavor to work from the universal to the particular and from the general to the specific, but our emphasis will always be on the universal and the general, and not upon the particular and specific. It will rest with those of you who are students of astrology, to make due application of the truth to the specific. It is definitely in this connection that modern astrology has gone astray. It has reversed the true and right procedure and has laid the emphasis upon the specific and particular, upon the personal horoscope and the individual destiny, and has not laid the emphasis upon the great energies and their source. These sources are ultimately responsible for the manifestation of the specific. This position and presentation of truth must be altered. In esoteric astrology we are, therefore, dealing with the life and lives which inform the points of light within the universal life. Constellations, solar systems, planets, kingdoms in nature and microscopic man are all of them the result of the activity and the manifestation of energy of certain lives whose cycle of expression and whose infinite purposes lie outside the comprehension of the most advanced and illumined minds on our planet. The next point for each of you to grasp is the fact that the ether of space is the field in and through which the energies from the many originating sources play. We are, therefore, concerned with the etheric body of the planet, of the solar system, and of the 7 solar systems